Hearing and seeing none. First on the agenda is an update from the LBPC on the 23 annual bi-county report. You guys came in about a month ago. We didn't really have time to talk. You presented, so you can go a little bit more in depth, answer any questions, and we'll go from there. Floor is yours.
You want us to? We don't really have a presentation.
Yeah,
We
you
just
guys
knew that
presented last
We
time.
had a pretty long presentation last time, but we knew you guys didn't get a chance to ask a lot of questions, so we thought we would come back. We did provide some additional sort of updated information. And if anybody wants an annual report, we did bring some. I think we delivered some to you guys before, but we have them if you need them. And other than that, just fire away. You want an annual report?
Do you mind,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Fredo? Thank you. It is on your website, correct?
It is, yeah.
I don't need one. I'm okay then.
Okay, yeah.
I'm a digital type of person.
I know Mr. Kraft had questions last time, but he's not here. I had a couple questions of my own. Just going through the handout you guys handed out tonight. Was it graph 8, page 4, back of the packet? You have industrial and you have warehousing. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong graph.
By the way, I'm here with Joey Doda and
Joey
Joey, yeah,
and
Jill Seitz.
Jill. Nice. To
And also here is Tracy Oskovich for moral support.
Yeah, so page 3, graph 7. You have 2.8 million square foot of industrial in Norco and 17.7 million square foot of warehousing. Would manufacturing be considered in the industrial or in the warehousing portion, or could it be a little bit of both?
Industrial.
Always?
Yeah, so for our reporting purposes, we separate out warehouse as itself, which that would include logistics and distribution, but mainly warehouse. And the manufacturing and all other industrial would fall under industrial.
So I guess that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to hone in on this, because we hear a lot about warehousing development and how everybody hates it, but everybody wants manufacturing jobs. Problem is, when it gets to your level at the zoning or in the planning stages, a lot of the times they don't have the tenants. They don't know exactly what these places are going to be, so they get classified as warehousing.
Yes.
And then after the fact, people will come in and the building will have a portion for office, portion for storage and warehousing, and then something for production, manufacturing facilities. So how are we accurately capturing what these buildings are before, they get classified as warehousing and that's it?
So, and the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission does usually see plans fairly early in the process, and is exactly as you described. Oftentimes, a tenant may not be identified yet, and so we encourage municipalities to plan for the most conservative land use, as in the most intensive land use that it could possibly be, because oftentimes manufacturing or other industrial facilities won't generate as significant impacts as a logistics or a distribution center or a warehouse in terms of truck trips and noise and light. So we encourage municipalities to, if they don't know what it's going to be, say, okay, let's just assume that it will be the absolute worst case scenario, just so that they have a better idea going forward, what sorts of impacts that they may need to mitigate. Once plans come back to us for a final signature before they're recorded, that gives us an opportunity to see if maybe something's changed, then we can update our database to reflect that. But even at that time, sometimes the facilities are built on spec and they may not have a tenant for quite a few years. And then at that point, it really comes to the municipalities to track what the uses are as they're filled.
Yeah. You're not wrong. I mean, some of the facilities have logistics and manufacturing in one building.
Yeah,
It's not an exact science.
I'm just trying to, the narrative is kind of set whenever we see these buildings or warehouses, and I'm in a lot of them, and I see that, a lot of them they're good jobs, they're manufactured, food processing, whatever. It's how do we get that information after the point to you guys? So the data itself is what we base all these decisions on. How do we make the data more accurate, I guess, is my question. And it's food for thought for you guys.
Yeah.
It's just a question. When I saw this graph, I didn't know how manufacturing was captured in that graph.
And to be clear, we don't take a position. We don't say warehouses
I
are
know,
all bad.
yeah.
You know that.
It's just
There's a
matter
right
of-
place and there's a wrong place.
Right, I agree. And then the back of that handout you guys had, can you explain to me, it says evolution of land use has a pie chart for, I believe, Lehigh County, and, oh, I'm sorry, one's Lehigh County and Northampton County going over the non-residential square footage, and one is residential units. Still, you just explain what that graph is representing, if you could.
Sure, so this is based on an analysis done by our Geographic Information Systems planner, Mackenzie Geisner. So she put together a map that geographically shows all the locations of development, both residential and non-residential, across the Lehigh Valley. So using her analysis, this pie chart just splits out what percentage of square feet is located in each county. So the blue pie chart on the left is for non-residential square feet, the light blue is for Northampton, and the dark blue is for Lehigh County. That's over the period of 2019 to 2023. And then on the right side, the green chart is for residential units. So again, the light green is Northampton County, and then the dark green is Lehigh County.
And that's over the 4 years of all plans submitted to you guys.
Correct.
That is, I didn't realize the contrast was that stark between the two.
I think it's probably because there was land available that was zoned properly. I mean, if you look at the full inventory, there's actually still more in Lehigh County. You know, it's actually skewed a little bit the other way. And that's partly because Lehigh County just doesn't have the room to have some of that at this point.
Right. Right. Any questions so far? Go ahead.
I do. So, is there a need in the county for affordable housing?
So the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, we don't consider ourselves to be affordable housing experts. There's other entities in the region like Community Action Lehigh Valley, and the two counties themselves administer affordable housing programs. So we really leave some more of the affordable housing expertise to them. In our most recent analysis, we did identify a deficit of units priced for households in the low income category, so earning below $25,000 per year. So we would definitely acknowledge that there is a need for more affordable housing units, but we're not an expert in affordable housing specifically.
Thank you. I just get asked about this all the time.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Gaffredo. To piggyback off Ms. Keegan, what she was talking about with affordable housing, it's an issue that's important to me, and I know it's an issue that's important to a lot of folks on this dais and even in our audience as well. I recently attended a HUD meeting with various other elected officials and stakeholders in the city of Bethlehem to really talk about this and become more engaged with how we can develop that affordable housing, concept, what that actually means. And it seems like there's a lack of attainable and market rate housing. I'm not a realtor by any means. I'm not a real estate expert, but just from what I've seen, what I've read, and the business-based circles that I am in as well. So I'm wondering, what kind of housing does Northampton County need, and why? Are you able to kind of paint that picture for us?
So actually, like later this year, we're going to team up with Urban Land Institute and Federal Reserve Bank. And we're going to do a housing.
Do you mind talking into the mic real
Sorry,
quick? I'm sorry.
we're going to do a housing sustainability analysis that really will be not so much how do we get more affordable housing, how do we get all housing that people need?
Right.
So people can stay in the neighborhoods they're in, and people can, and there's also, oddly enough, there's also a deficit of houses for the upper income. Like there aren't enough of those. And then the middle, there's plenty of them in the middle. So you have the people in the upper income buying the middle, and your people in the lower sort of overbuying, and it's everybody buying the same stuff in the middle. So that this analysis is supposed to almost come up with a business plan of where housing is needed and at what price types. And we're gonna kind of get on that at the second half of this year.
Yeah, I wonder, is this a shortage of available rental units driving up the price of rentals, do you think? And maybe it goes to what you were just saying, that higher income earners, they may be seeking the same type of rental units as others who earn less due to the supply and demand of the situation that we're in right now.
Well, Jill's our housing expert,
Yeah.
but yes, there is
Glad you're here.
there is a shortage of
Yeah.
housing in general. And if you look at the numbers, Jill can tell you, most of what's being sort of built now are apartments, market rate apartments.
Yeah. I just think it's important as we're moving forward in terms of understanding what kind of housing we need here in Northampton County. I mean, not just in the immediate, but what's going to be needed 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. I think that's pretty critical as we're moving forward.
Absolutely, and the strategy that Matt mentioned that we're partnering with the Urban Land Institute and Federal Reserve, that's going to be geared towards bringing together sort of like cross sectors of like public sector, municipalities, banks, like other private sector entities, just so that we can identify exactly that collectively.
And low-income housing advocates.
Correct.
Yeah, that's an important part of the process. I mean, we just recently approved LERTA for Easton with regard to some affordable housing initiatives that they have there. So affordable housing, very good. So, anyway, thank you.
Very good and hard.
Yes.
Hard to build and make money.
Yes.
Anything, Jeff? Can you guys answer questions on the LVTS portion, or at least generally?
Maybe general, I mean, I did talk to Chris Kufro, who is the district executive, and if he had more specific and sort of drilled down, he's willing to come here. Yeah.
Well, we're talking about affordable housing. We're looking at, I think I heard, was it last meeting or maybe it was when you guys were here, that either it's Northampton County or Lehigh Valley is the fastest growing region in the state. And then people will
Arguably
say
the
that there's too many people here, there's too much. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think we want to grow. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. If you're shrinking, you're dying. I think it's a great thing that people want to be here. And we talk about affordable housing, which is absolutely important to think about. But, the LVTS report, and, I know people in Northampton County are upset about the way it was split, and I understand how it worked. But all these projects, like, why are we not talking about major infrastructure issues that we have? Like, I'm in the backwood, I'm in Wind Gap area. 512 Wind Gap, most of the day, is slammed. 22 is a parking lot all the time, same with 33.
Yeah.
Why aren't we talking about widening projects like that? We've been talking about 22 being widened for decades.
Yeah, I don't know
The
if
problem's
widened is the
not
right
solving
term,
itself.
but we did get $1 million grant, and there's going to be a study on what to do with 22. And the hope is, it's just such a bear, that there's so much, I think, identified in the long-range transportation plan, almost $2 billion worth of stuff that needs done, which would include the widening. But then when you look at the money that comes in to do at the whole Lehigh Valley, it doesn't fit into that budget over that long range. So how do you fit the two together? How do you fit 22 in? So we're sort of wrestling with that. One of the ways is to have it designated as an interstate. So we're going to try and do that, because that's a different pot of money, and that would not come out of the money that goes into LVTS. We're going to give that a shot. But we actually have got a pretty good bump in money for this current transportation improvement plan, which is the 4-year spending model. It's going to be about a 20% increase over last time. And part of that's because we went to Harrisburg, we went to DC, and we said we're growing, and they listened. And we also got some grants, and the grants are going to take care of a couple things, but there's never enough money.
Yeah.
I think we've identified in the long-range transportation plan $2.5 billion worth of stuff. Now, that's over 25 years, that we know needs done, and we don't have the money to do.
Yeah, I'm not
So,
saying
yeah.
you guys have an easy job. I'm sure there's lots of things that come to your desk to look at and to approach, but
We're getting
I don't
after
think we have a
it.
population problem. I just think we have a logistics problem right now.
Yeah,
in
we
this- in
we
this
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else has any other questions? Nope. Thank you guys
You're
very
letting
much
Joey
for coming.
off easy here?
Huh?
You're letting
I was
Joey
gonna
off easy here?
Listen, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing that you guys got off easy, but thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Next on the agenda is a presentation on the Dixie Cup building project.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So we are very excited. We have the whole team from Skyline Investment Group this afternoon who's going to walk through the presentation. So I'd like to ask Claudia, Neil, and Debbie to come up.
Debbie's just going to stand.
Oh,
She's
okay.
going to sit back there. It's going to
Okay.
be mostly Neil and myself, but she's a great cheerleader. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Members of the council, members of the community, thank you for having us here this afternoon to present this really exciting project, 1921 at Dixie Avenue. My name is Neil Griffin. I work for the architecture firm. I have Claudia Robinson representing the ownership group, and we're just really excited about what we can do for this property. So as you know, this property has been really impactful for the community, but is set relatively vacant or underutilized for the last 40 years. And we have a proposal here that we think can revitalize this building while retaining the historic nature of the property and contributing to the community at large. We've been in talks with the county school, or the Borough School Board, the Borough Planning Commission.
The Borough of Wilson, the school, Wilson Area School District, and obviously Northampton County.
And have gone through multiple iterations of the project to land at where we're at today. And this site plan from December shows the main concepts of what we're looking to do. And then this is the site plan that we presented to the zoning submission early last month. And something about this site plan that we're really excited about is being able to connect to the Two Rivers Trail and provide a community space along this trail that is open to the public and accessible all the time.
And one thing you should note is that all of the planning that has been done here.
Ma'am, can you speak into the microphone, please, so we can hear for
Sorry,
YouTube?
of course, thank you. One of the things that you should note is that all of the design and plans that we have done here have already been presented as well to the National Park Service, so that we are putting this property on the National Register. And furthermore, the improvements that are being done will be consistent with the National Parks standards for historic preservation. So it is not just that we are revitalizing the building, but that we are also conserving the history of the property.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name the first time.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Claudia Robinson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And piggybacking off of Claudia's point, how impactful this building has been for the community over its history. And we know not just the building, but also the Dixie Cup on top. And so what we're proposing too, and in its current state, it's not very safe. It's not very structurally sound. And so our proposal is to take the existing Dixie Cup off the building and place it in a public plaza on this triangle portion here. And you can see that along the bike trail, there's a little plaza with some brick pavers, some benches and landscaping. And then the existing Dixie Cup is refurbished and placed there, well lit. And so it's still visible for the community and accessible. And then we place a replica Dixie Cup atop the building that's much safer and up to current standards.
It's going to be much lower weight. It's going to be plexiglass. So the appearance will be that of the original Dixie Cup, but it's not going to cause our roofs to cave, which is important.
Yeah, and in the nature of creating a destination for not just the borough, but for the whole community, we're looking at connecting the Two Rivers Bike Trail to a commercial use in the existing boiler plant of the property. So it's an existing building on the property. We refurbish it and reuse it to make a dog park. People can come and have food, have drinks, enjoy the wonderful day like we're having today. And then also just be able to hop onto the trail and go away. And the property is abutted by two different schools as well. And so this provides a safe connection for school-aged children to get onto this bike trail. The rendering on the left shows what we think this boiler building could become. And so we're looking to open up that space, create an indoor-outdoor yard where people can come and it's fenced in, dogs can run around, children can run around, and it's just a place that anyone in the community can drive up to and park their bikes and hop on the trail. And so we're really excited about that. On the right, we're looking at what kind of amenities this building is gonna have. And so using the existing geometry of the building, creating a rooftop amenity for the residents, as well as a really nice welcoming lobby that you'd expect to see in any new construction. In terms of the units, the finishes of these units would be typical that you'd expect in any new construction multifamily. And they're 74% one bedrooms and 24% two bedrooms with no 3 bedrooms or above.
So our target market for this is really what you would consider middle market. What we're looking for is providing brand-new housing for professionals, young married couples, empty nesters, people who are working remotely. You'll see later on, because there's other amenities that will be facilitating that. It's not a family development, and this was done in consideration with the school district, who is very concerned about having a steady state in terms of students. We're not going to be doing a property that's going to be flooding the Wilson area school district with a lot of kids. That is not the intent here. And at the same time, like I said, workforce housing has become a buzzword in terms of housing. It's extremely necessary, especially in an area such as the Lehigh Valley and specifically Wilson, where you are seeing more and more need for not just affordable housing, but really high-quality apartment living where it's a choice and not, you're moving in there because you want to be there, not because you have to.
And
Can I stop you and ask a question right there?
Sure.
What is your projected square footage per unit for a single and for a two-bedroom?
In terms of size? It's about 900 for the one bedrooms and 1,100 for the two bedrooms.
1,400.
1,400, sorry, a little bit bigger than that, and they're pretty big.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so
And
that's,
that has to do with the layout of the building, since we are limited.
You have
I mean,
constrictions.
exactly.
yeah, that's roughly 150 to 200 square feet larger than comparables in the market. And, to be attractive to these renter communities, we're building amenities that are top of the line and are community focused. And so top of the line fitness center with brand new equipment, we're keeping the courtyards and, the whole structure of the building is going to remain nearly identical to what it is today, but making public spaces for gathering and then a pool for the residents, which is what they expect in a property of this magnitude. Here's a rendering of the entire development. Couple things I want to point out is we're looking to put solar panels on the entire roof that's not being occupied by mechanical or the amenity. And that's going to power all of the open community spaces within the property. And then,
It should account for about 85% of our needs. We're also going to be doing EV charging stations. So we are doing everything we can to make this property as green as possible.
85% of all energy needs, including heating and cooling?
Heating for sure.
Yeah?
the common spaces.
Yeah, in the common spaces.
the
It's going to be
common spaces.
individually metered, but we're going to be accounting for 85% of all the common area spaces.
Outstanding.
And then another thing to know as well is between the two parcels that are included in the project, we have enough parking for all the residences based on the current zoning code. So I want to just touch on, where we're at in the process. Some of this is, we've already talked about, but just want to make sure everyone's aware. So we've been in contact with the Wilson Borough. Some of the members are with us today, and they've been very supportive of the project. We've worked with them on a lot of the nuances of the project, from the big picture stuff to the details. And they're in support, and they're really excited to add this to the community.
And as we mentioned before, in terms of the school district, their main concern was making sure that they weren't going to have an excess of new students coming in. And we looked at this very carefully, looked at where the school student body is right now and how that population is pretty steady state. And we are working to make sure that, in fact, that's how we also assist in keeping it that way.
High level, the project is 405 market rate middle market apartments, 34% junior one bedrooms, 42% one bedrooms, and 24% two bedrooms, and then no 3 bedrooms or above. There is a typo here. The anticipated project timeline is from July of this year through May of 2026, not.
I was going to say, you guys are good. If you're
That would be, we're not miracle
I
workers
was going to
here.
ask about that. yeah.
The typo.
Yeah, there is a typo, but the first move-ins are expected in January of 2026.
And we're
And-
going to be phasing this. So one of the things that you should be aware is when you look at the outline of the building, it's got legs. We are going to be able to really complete legs, complete all of the life safety systems, and have staged move-ins by leg in terms of the residents.
All of the plans and necessary documents have been submitted to Zoning Hearing Board, Borough Council, and then also the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. Those meetings are ongoing, and we're anticipating having that finalized around mid-June. But they've been involved in the process the whole time. We've received really positive feedback, and so we're excited to move that process along. One thing that we did was we enlisted the Dietrich Group to create a feasibility study for this project. And this report is over 100 pages, and it looks at the market in general, what's needed, and compares this project to what's existing both like in the valley and also a little bit broader as well. And this report, as you know, the Lehigh Valley is a very attractive place to work and live, and it's growing at a very, very substantial pace.
The fifth fastest market in the country.
So, yeah, maybe top in Pennsylvania, but fifth largest in the country. And since the mid-2000s, there's been an average of 460 units every year. And the rent prices has continued to increase. And so what we determined from that is that there's substantial demand within this area to rent really nice housing. And we think that this property will fill that need and absorb relatively quickly into the housing stock.
In fact, I don't know if you all have had the opportunity to look at the report, but it actually answers a lot of your questions that you were asking, Mr. Warren.
I was just getting ready to add, do you mind, Mr. Gafredo?
Are you guys all done presenting?
Yeah.
We have a couple more slides, but we
Well,
can-
go ahead, Jeff.
Okay,
Interject.
thank you, Mr. Gafredo. I was going to ask, because I think you used a phrase, mid-market value or something like that.
Middle market.
Middle market value.
It's a little bit.
I was going to
more-
ask what that is.
Middle market is a little bit more comprehensive than workforce housing. And so what we're talking about are probably AMI, more of the 90% to 135% of AMI, which really covers a great, huge component of the population. So we're, like we said, it's the professional, the hospital workers, a lot of the people involved in the logistics, which is a big industry in this particular area. And so it's, I guess what people, you know what it is? It's what most people think they are. People don't think of themselves as super affluent, and they don't think of themselves as not having enough. But middle market really has to do with the income range, and it's that range that I just described.
Thank you. Thank you.
And one other item we want to touch on from this report is that the TIF component of this project is critical to this project going forward in its current state.
Yeah, I mean, as it is, because it's a historic rehab, it always is, in a way, harder than stick-built. On the other hand, it's also, in a way, better built. You just can't build a building like this anymore. So the reality of it is because you are recycling the building, and you are therefore being more environmentally sound and such, it is a bit more costly on a per square foot basis than you would have if it was stick-built.
Not to mention, you guys probably have some pretty challenging abatement issues in there.
We have, well, we forgot to mention, this is a brownfield, EPA brownfield site. When we're done with the remediation, it will get off that list.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and we're going to be providing top-of-the-line amenities in an environment-conscious way, and we think this is going to attract a lot of people to come to this community and help grow the vibrant community you have. In terms of ownership, Skyline Investment Group is the party looking to purchase the property and redevelop the entity. Brian Barty is the managing partner of this property, and he has over 20 years of experience in New York City and elsewhere, managing billions of dollars worth of residential and commercial loans. And not only is his experience really useful, but his deep network that he has to bring a lot of different financing to the table is really a positive sign that this project can move forward very quickly. During the process, we enlisted traffic planning and design to do a traffic study of both the new residence and the commercial space in the project. And without going into too much details on this, there's no significant impact on the peak traffic for weekdays or weekends around the site. And the only recommendation that they had that wasn't stop signs leaving our property was to optimize the signal timings at Butler and 25th Street. And this was something that was really important to the school board, understanding, when, there's a lot of traffic when kids are coming and dropping off, and we have no significant impact on that property.
I have a question. So the main entrance to the development, would it be on 25th Street or would it be on a side street?
Pull the
Yeah.
site plan up.
So there's no entrance off of 25th Street. There's two entrances off of 24th, which is in front of the building as you're looking at this rendering. And then we have the adjacent parking lot on the right side of this property, right side of this page, that has two different entrances and exits as well. And how we worked with traffic planning to configure these so that we don't impact the existing traffic too much.
Understood. Thank you.
Touching on what Claudia mentioned about the remediation work, so there is a substantial amount of abatement that has to happen still on the inside of the building, but within the brownfield, we've removed a lot of drums and containers of hazardous waste off of the site. There was wax tanks buried that have been dug up, unearthed, and then brought off the site and then tested. And so the last thing that we need is just the letter of approval to
correct.
be removed off the brownfield. And so all this work has been complete. We're just waiting on that final approval. In terms of the National Register, we've applied to put the project on the National Register, and our Part 1s and Part 2s have been submitted. We're optimistic about the property moving forward and being placed on the register. And we've had reviews with the Pennsylvania SHPO and incorporate their feedback into what was submitted. And so we're just looking like, I think we're going to hear back about the Part 1 this month and then 30 days after.
Yeah, and it should be noted that the Pennsylvania SHPO has been particularly helpful and has really helped us expedite this. Again, this building has been around for a long time. They see it as a possibility of losing it just from lack of attention, and so they've been very helpful.
And that's all. So excited for your questions.
Ms. Keegan, go ahead.
So you said it's middle market value apartments. Are you opting out and contributing to the county affordable housing initiative?
Yes, we are. Yes, that is part of the proposed TIF, and we would be contributing, I believe it's $27,000 per unit on 10% of the units.
Okay. Also, I think you said anyone in the community can use the dog park and...
It's going to have public access, that's correct.
Wow, okay. And will the bike trail running along the western end of the building be accessible to non-residents from Washington Boulevard?
I believe it is. Again, we will help facilitate that. We are going to be working in that area. That is our intent.
Wow, okay. And what are the plans for the parking lot adjacent to the building, the lot north of Washington Boulevard?
Yeah, so the connection to the bike trail from Washington, you have to come down 24th Street, but it will be publicly accessible. And then the adjacent lot, currently it's 100% paved. We're looking to remove some of that pavement and add in typical landscape islands, create a fence for security, and then keep that as parking for the residents.
Wow, that's great that you're going to include the public. Thank you, it looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
If you don't mind, thank you, Mr. Alfredo. Just a couple comments. I know we have a certain level of decorum here, but I wish I could get down there and high-five you all because of what this particular building has meant to the community for decades, and quite frankly, to get a little personal, what it's meant to my family. My grandfather on my mother's side of the family, they were creatures of the West Ward in Easton, and he's a World War II vet. He was jumping out of planes over in Europe. Got a little nick from a bullet on his cheek, and when he came back from World War II, came back to the West Ward and worked at the Dixie plant, just loading trucks, unloading trucks, and he did it for decades. Wow. And that's what he did as a contributing member of our community in the Easton area in Northampton County here. So I'm, because of that, and because of his history, very humble history, and what this Dixie plant meant to my family, I'm very excited about the prospects of this project and what it can mean, and just the reuse of a building and structure such as this. I've been in the public realm long enough where we hear that phrase a lot, reuse and redevelopment and solar too, yeah. And the fact that the solar aspect of this is going to be very proactive, I think, for this community in a lot of different ways.
Honestly, in terms of the solar panel, the number that we have there, we are limited by roofs, top space, not because we would put in more if we could.
It's exciting for me, given my family's history, and
Wonderful.
it's exciting. Still got a lot of building blocks here to get through in terms of this project coming to fruition, but I'm excited, so thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
Do you mind if I have a word or two? I'll only be a minute or two. My name is Stan Margot. I'm the solicitor for Wilson Borough, and I've been involved in this project long before these nice folks came into town and kind of bailed us out. And I really believe it is happening this time. I've gone through about 4 or 5 developers, possible builders and buyers that have come into the community that I represent, and the folks are here today. And they've come in, spent a lot of money, looked at the project, and decided they can't do it. These folks did not. They came in, they decided they can do it, irrespective of how much money it's going to ultimately wind up costing them. I wanted to assure County Council that, I saw my name up over there on a letter, County Council, we are working diligently with these folks standing behind me, with the developer, and with their engineers, lawyers, and designers. Claudia's done a great job. Neil's done a great job, and they're in constant contact with me. I don't mean constant, but when a lawyer gets a call once a week, that's constant contact. So we are working with them. They're responsive, they're real, and their plans are going to come to fruition, I'm confident. And it's going to be a real beautiful thing for the community. I have the same history. My mother worked for Dixie for many years, so it goes a long way. Thanks.
Mr. Margot,
Yes.
where, or maybe somebody else could answer it, but where are you guys at with the LRTA ordinance in the school district and in the borough?
We adopted the LRTA ordinance,
They adopted it last time around.
yeah, last time for Nick, I can't remember his last, I couldn't pronounce his last name anyway, so LRTA was adopted by the borough and by school district, and county council decided not to adopt it. Apparently that had some impact on the applicant. I'm not convinced that it did, but for whatever reason, after that was decided, he left. And as far as I haven't looked at it in a while, but my recollection is the LRTA has been adopted. LRTA applies, it's site-specific, it's not applicant-specific. So these folks, if it applies to these folks, they can take advantage of it as far as I know. I don't know whether they will. I'm not sure if it's advantageous to them, but if they want to, we'll work with them.
Well, I know the first time around, the big hangup, at least here on council, was they were going to rehab the exterior, and the interior was yet to be determined what it would be, and a lot of people had trouble supporting something that they didn't quite know the outcome would be. And this is very specific.
Yep.
The drawings are fantastic, so unless anybody else has any other questions, no? Wish you guys, oh, go ahead.
Yes, I do have one point. I do believe that we are pursuing a TIF. We have asked the borough that they would remove the LRTA, because you can't do both. So that has been put in writing. We're working very closely with our TIF counsel, which is Eckert Siemens, who is extremely experienced, not only in this area, but actually throughout the state of Pennsylvania. So that is something that we've already put in place and have requested.
And Mrs. Robinson, you're with Skyline, or?
I'm with Skyline. I'm a consultant with Skyline. I have my own little company, but right now I'm a full-time employee with Skyline.
Understood. Thank you. Go ahead.
The presentation from Solicitor Margot was about LRTA. On tonight's agenda is a proposal for council's introduction, if you will, for a TIF.
That's correct.
Okay. The LRTA and the TIF, as I understand it, are different.
Okay, so, well, go ahead, because I,
So the TIF needs to be passed by all three municipalities that govern the property. The money comes up front and is governed by then a TIF board. In this case, I believe we've talked about the GPA doing that as an independent TIF board, which council's represented on as is the executive. The Dietrich Group report that you saw today that was presented, as you read through it, that report is used to determine the bonding and the funding that comes through the deferred taxes in the TIF, okay? It's been, if you go back procedurally and look what we did with the Schrin property off of 33 and Tatamy Road, where we got that intersection taken care of with the proceeds from the TIF. That's exactly the way it happens here, except it's for the preservation of the building and the redevelopment of the site. So that's kind of how it works. There's a timing issue on these things where the development has to go into place so you can get the maximum return. The Dietrich Group shows that the money would be there so the lenders can lend on that promise. And the development here will go relatively quickly as opposed to the model with the Schrin, I'll call it the Schrinner change for no other acronym. With the Schrin project, development had to happen. And, you know, God rest his soul, when Charlie Schrin was alive, the development was much slower because he wanted to hold on to some of the land and there were different iterations of the subdivision. Here, it's really cut and dry and very simple. There's two parcels, nothing's getting torn down. It's being remediated and redeveloped with the improvements that are laid out here. So the initiative is all up front as opposed to the discount over the years, and all three municipalities must agree to it. And in essence, when Wilson approves the TIF, because the district there can't be a LRTA and a TIF together, the LRTA would have to be repealed. And, you know, the school district and Wilson have been in discussions with that previously. That's all. Sorry, I wanted to clear that up.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Anybody have any other questions? Any other comments from you guys?
no, you can tell how excited we are about it. I've had the luxury of doing historic rehabs across the country, and this is this is such an iconic building.
Thank you.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, he was just saying get closer.
Get close to the microphone. I'm sorry, you're absolutely correct. I'm just saying we're super excited. I just tell you, this is such an iconic building. The history of what the Dixie Cup did for the U.S. I didn't know this until we started working on it, but the fact that it really became so popular after the Spanish flu and having just lived through a pandemic, it's like, wow.
Yeah,
So.
it's funny. I know this is early question to ask you, but I'm sure it'll be asked to me, so I'm going to ask you. And I'm sure when you're doing your performas, you're talking about rental rates and what you would be looking to charge. Do you guys have an idea of what you'd be looking to charge for a single and a double?
Absolutely. If you look at the Dietrich's report, it's actually pretty much spelled there because it's comparable. What it is, it's going to be offering more for the same rents that are being offered right now for the, quote, market rate units.
Care to share on just?
I'm trying to remember, I don't have it right off the top of my head. I know it's in my TIF plan,
Yeah,
but I think it was like 1,900, if I remember correctly.
It's about $2 a square foot.
Yeah.
Comps in the market are anywhere between 2.2, 2.3, and so we're charging the same face rent, but it's because of that
Big space.
larger space.
Bigger
There's
space.
no doubt that
Yeah.
900 square foot for a single is a very large single unit, same with 1,400 for a double. So, and the pictures that you showed, it looks very nice. Everything you guys did is very nice. So thank you guys for coming in. Please feel free to come back when you guys have more updates come along. And obviously, the ordinance going through, so thank you.
Great.
Thank you. I
you for your
think
time.
we'll be back in June, so hopefully.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Last thing on our agenda is a discussion regarding a resolution approving the substantial amendment to the fiscal years of 2017, 2019, 2020, 2022, and 2023 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plans for the County of Northampton. That was a mouthful.
Good evening, committee and council members. Thank you for this time to discuss why Northampton County's Community Development Block Grant, or our CDBG program, from time to time needs to run a substantial amendment process that allows for some needed housekeeping. Our municipalities have requested these needed changes to their CDBG activities. This resolution is a result of their request seeking changes to their activities from a process that is being undertaken. Our department encourages our municipalities and service agencies that are awarded CDBG funded to request changes when necessary as part of our best practices. Our municipalities have reported several reasons that impacted many of their activities, needing them to request a change in their activity levels. The single biggest reason we heard from our municipalities was supply chain issues. These seem to affect almost every construction project we have, many needing changes to become right-sized to our funding levels. Many municipalities receive alternate funding streams from the American Rescue Act, liquid fuels, or other Pennsylvania state programs. These other funding streams, when they came available, allowed many of our municipalities to use their CDBG funds to be flexed so they could be used elsewhere. And several of our municipalities had changes in their areas of eligibility from the 2020 census. These municipalities needed to request changes in order to assist their low to moderate income level residents. So I'd like to introduce right now John Kingsley, the City of Easton's Community Development and Redevelopment Authority's Director. Also like to note our colleague, Sarah Eddings, the administrator of the programs. The RDA is responsible for managing the City of Easton's CDBG funding programs. John is here this afternoon to describe this series of fortunate events which allowed the RDA to request these changes on behalf of the City of Easton. My great colleague John is here right now. John, if you would.
Thanks, Frank, very much. Let me do a little bit of a handout because I think it's going to help you understand the proposed changes that are.
Thank you.
I have two handouts and do one of them at a time because I can't multitask, so my apologies.
Thank you again.
First of all, you have the city's resolution that actually shows how we allocated our 2023 Community Development Block Grant funds. And then the other piece that you have is the actual advertisement for today's meeting. And what I did was I color-coded the advertisement so that you could see which particular amendments are actually city-related. And then we can kind of quickly summarize what the character of those amendments are. So on the last page, you'll see I created a color code. So you've got your green, your blue, your gray, and your yellow. So we'll start with green, and green's easy because really what we're doing here is just reconciling the city's community development block grant allocations with the county's budget. So that's all we're really doing there. There's not really any changes there. We're literally just making sure that the numbers that we have in the resolution that I provided you actually are the ones that are now in your budget for use of community development block grant funds. There's one exception to that. It is actually related to the Easton Redevelopment Authority housing acquisition and rehab budget. In that particular instance, we added additional funds to that budget because we ended up paying off under the blue the blue highlights, you'll see there's a note that the 108 loan that we previously had has been paid off. So we no longer needed that $74,000 to pay the 108 loan. So we were reallocating that so that it could be used for acquisition and rehab for the redevelopment authority. So other than that, all of those green items are just budget reconciliations. They're just making our numbers your numbers and making it all like kind. As it relates to the blue items, real quickly, we'll just walk you through what those are. So the first one you'll notice on the first page, the fire extinguisher training system. That is actually, the title has been changed to reflect that this is public training. At one point it looked as though this was internal training. It is not internal training. This is actually training for the public and for organizations that need fire safety training. Okay? We'd already talked about the 108 loan being paid off, so that actually is being canceled. We canceled the DPW road works project, which is actually a typo. That 188,000 should be 108,908. And that has been reallocated to West Ward Pocket Parks, which we're going to talk about in a moment. And then we canceled the Redevelopment Authority's exterior rehab of $50,000. So that project was canceled. The last blue item is that reallocation of that 108,908 from roads to help fund our public parks. It's actually funding our pocket park study, which many of you may have read about 7 different pocket parks we're going to be working on revitalizing in the neighborhoods. Okay? And then finally, the gray area items that are identified here are really CARES Act cleanup business. The city ran out of CARES Act funding largely because of the CMED program. We contributed quite a bit of our CARES Act money to the CMED program, and we had a series of things that we needed to clean up, some of which are facility and equipment related. That's the $45,000 piece. We would reallocate the Third Street Alliance pool shelter expansion funds to cover things like our EMS. We're looking at buying ambulances. We have an urban farm project that we're undertaking in the city, and then there's Salvation Army food security money that we also wanted to make available through CARES Act. And because CARES Act is exhausted, we needed to find other sources. Now, you may ask, well, what happened to the Third Street Alliance funding for the pool shelter program? Well, we got that through the Emergency Shelter Grant Program, courtesy of Mr. Brooks. So we always try to find resources through other opportunities to be able to offset any changes we make to our third-party subrecipients. And then finally, the only other change that we were proposing is taking the neighborhood center case manager funding, which was no longer necessary, also funded through another resource of $16,000, and that is being reallocated again to some CARES Act funding cleanup that we needed to do to help the Easton Community Center basketball program. And that is as quick a summary I think I can do of all of the changes that are related to us, which are numerous, and we are thankful very much for the DCD team support. I've said it before, say it again, I'll say it at every meeting. Your Department of Community and Economic Development is the best. We love working with them. We appreciate all of the assistance they provided in helping us get this all reconciled. And at that point, I'm glad to answer any questions you may have, whether it's about this or about any of the underlying projects.
Jeff?
Yeah, can you just explain the process of how you went about deciding, once the grant was in and approved and now you're changing it, what was the process to make that change and reallocate those monies?
Did you want to? Go ahead, Frank, I'm sorry.
So when you're using CDBG money, there's a citizens participation plan that is approved by HUD, and we have the public notice. We had the entire portfolio of what we're doing placed in every one of the libraries. We've had all the municipalities that are involved to make sure all the residents were informed, and then we have a public hearing on it, and this will serve as one of our public hearings because we're informing the public. And then there's a resolution we pass, and we have a long process that goes. We've already taken the liberty of running these projects through HUD just to make sure that HUD was happy with it, and they're very pleased so far with the changes. And then we're hoping that the next council meeting, you'll approve this resolution for us so we can then officially move these to HUD and then do actually these budget transportations. But the substantial amendment is actually a HUD-related kind of procedure, and that it has to be run accordingly. So that's.
Councilman, I also wanted to say that the city council also reviews our changes before they came to Northampton County Council, so they were reviewed in a public forum, and obviously there's a resolution associated with them as well.
Nothing else? Well, if that's it, guys, thank you very much for all the work you do. I wish we could have more questions for you, but your presentation was that clear.
We try.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
And that's it. We're adjourned.
And
best.
No problem. Thank you for, it's appreciated. Thank you very much. Appreciate all your help. So I said to Mark, I will not be here tonight, but Mike will be, so you'll have more capable, you know, more capable support.